Good morning and welcome to the Saturday special of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. For the last few years, we have been witnessing a strange phenomenon. And the phenomena is that the politicians who indulge in violation of the human rights talk of the human rights. The countries which are themselves guilty of killing innocent people for political purposes or for commercial purposes. The countries which are guilty of having acted like a mafia are now talking as protectors of the individual rights and the liberties, are now talking as the high priest of ethics and morality, and the apogee, the apex of this hypocrisy of the media and the political leadership reached with the news of purported murder of a writer, a journalist, Khashoggi. Is all this hype about the murder of one person justified? I do not deny that every human life is important. I do not deny that murder of any human being is condemnable. I am all for the safety and the sanctity of human life. But all this noise being created all over the world has a certain purpose. Look at our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. He, today, when I read the newspaper in the morning, I saw that he condemns this murder, thereby justifying their earlier political intervention in Saudi Arabian affairs, showing that there is a consistent record of Saudi Arabia violating human rights. And he forgot that the human rights of the native Canadians have been violated since times immemorial and are even being violated today. The number of the missing native Canadians, the women missing, has there been any inquiry about that? Can Justin Trudeau justify the murder of hundreds of the native Canadian women? How did they go missing? There is not a single word about that. But he is very vocal, and so is the Foreign Minister. Listen to you and CNN. There is no program for the last 4 days where this thing is not cropping up. And why were they quiet when Allende was killed in Chile by the government of US agency CIA? Why were they quiet when General Zia was killed by a presumed explosion in his aircraft? Why did they keep quiet when hundreds of the people were killed in Croatia and Serbia? At that time, they did not condemn anybody, no. But they come up saying, no, they are misstatements. Khashoggi is not an American citizen. And then Khashoggi's morality. He has children who are American children. And then he has a fiancée for whom he wanted a visa. So he went to Saudi Arabian embassy. Now look at the contradiction. On the one side it said that Khashoggi was afraid to go to Saudi Arabia because he was afraid that he'll be killed there. And then he goes to the Saudi Arabian Consulate General to get a visa for his fiancé, and the fiancé stays outside. Very convenient. And who is saying that they have the evidence? According to CNN, is the government of Turkey, which is saying that they have evidence of the murder and kidnapping and everything. Since when has the government of Erdogan become a reliable party? Till today, till now, everybody has been saying that the Turkish president is the most unreliable person. And what about his human rights? He killed thousands of the people when there was a coup against him. So it's not the reason that Khashoggi's death is being exploited. It is being exploited for their own selfish ends. They need Khashoggi's murder. They are using Khashoggi's murder as a stick to beat Trump with. Now let's assume, for the sake of argument, that the charges levied by the Turkish police are borne out. It would be painful if he has really been killed, because all human beings want a rule-based order. And frankly, we see it being done all over the world. In a sense, Saudi Arabia is joining the augury of destruction, which is there globally already. But then we are dealing with an area which is notorious for a lapse in global standards. The whole of the Middle East is nothing but what I earlier called a witch's cauldron, boiling cauldron, in which everything that is human and decent is being boiled to death. And who is responsible for that? For the major portion is the responsibility of USA, what Bush did, what Clinton did when he attacked Yemen, and what Obama did is responsibility. Libya, Syria, they are the responsible people. And there has been a process in the end of the First Cold War of a deterioration in the standards over there. So this is something shocking. You create a situation where human rights have no value. You support those people who oppress people. And then you talk of the human rights. Who created Taliban and Al-Qaeda? United States. Through their henchman Zia. So, whom are we condemning? Saudi Arabia has been propped by every president of USA. Why did they not at that time say that no, we will not enable you to become despots? In fact, the White House and the CNN media has been playing the role of an enabler. Saudi Arabian kingdom has been their mouthpiece. So why condemn them now? Now let's come to what should be the US response. According to CNN, there should be a break of diplomatic relations. But that doesn't happen. There have been worse cases. Did you break relations with China? No. Did you break relations with Pakistan? No. Did you break relations with millions of other countries, hundreds of other countries, which have a worse record? No. So why here? The only thing is because they want the Trump government to fail. This is absolutely counterproductive and unacceptable. Suppose you break the relations. What happens? There will be retaliation. And the question of morality and legality aside in foreign policy, for the Saudi Arabian government, foreign policy is a clear thing. You interfere in their affairs and they'll give you a slap. Witness what happened in Canada. One tweet and they kicked out your ambassador and recalled hundreds of students who were basically a milch cow for the Canadians. So breaking relations is an unforgivable, self-destructive blunder. And then look at the countries, small countries like UK, who trade heavily with Saudi Arabia. Are they going to support you? On the one side, CNN and other media are always saying that Trump should act in concert with other nations. Would a single nation of Europe Union join USA in breaking relations with Saudi Arabia or in having sanctions on them? Look at what happened in Canadian case. Not a single country, not even England, the mother country for Canada. The ruler is the same. The head of the state is the same. Refused to participate. They simply said, well, that's their affair. Here we come to the point of leverage. The Saudi Arabian leverage on these countries is much too great. And the reason why the US and the Americans are very cautious in dealing with Saudi is that it's not because of values. Who cares for the human values and diplomacy? It is because of self-interest. To begin with, the British and to a bit lesser extent American defense and industrial basis depends heavily on sale of Saudi Arabia defense equipment. Now suppose CNN is saying we should cancel this $110 billion deal. Who will be loser? You cancel it. And Trump very rightly said, China, Russia, they'll be happy to give it to Saudi Arabia and get the money. Result, your industry would be destroyed, your people would be unemployed, and the result would be zero, zilch, nil. Production lines would be down, and there'll be interruption in the existing sales, and they'll shut down because there's no future for the future sales. So unemployment will be there. A large number of jobs in major economies like USA, UK depend on Saudi Arabia remaining a customer. And defense is a major dollar earner. Secondly, Saudis are a prime source of human intelligence on terrorists. They are the people who know everything about the human terrorists, and USA is taking their help for that. There is no replaceable source. There are only two countries in the world, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, who know all the intricacies of the terrorists. And you want to stop it? Then, war in Yemen is going on. What would happen to that? US sanctions would impact the war in Yemen as well. And the war in Yemen is of extreme importance to USA because if their terrorists are successful, you can be sure that will be a disaster. Logistics support is vital to Saudi Arabia in Yemen. And it's bring to fairly rapidly lower the level of combat. The war itself has been a travesty of statecraft. I don't deny that. Because they started a war without knowing how to end it. The same mistake they committed in Iraq, they committed in Afghanistan, and they had earlier committed in Vietnam. They start a war, they don't know how to end a war. So, this action promoted and propagated by CNN and other media is absolutely suicidal. Then, most important, should Khashoggi's disappearance or murder, whatever you want to call it, be called an act of war? Definitely, every country should protect its citizen. But as I said earlier, Khashoggi is not a citizen. He is, as a matter of fact, guilty of duplicity. He is married in USA, has American children, but he is not an American citizen. And he is having a relationship in Turkey with a woman whom he calls his fiancée. After being married in the USA, that means bigamy. Why are we glossing on that? And then why did he go to the Consulate General when he knows fully well that his life would be in danger? And he had earlier refused the request of the Crown Prince, Salman, to come. So on one side he's refusing the request and on the other side he's going there. This doesn't make sense. First World War was started when Ferdinand was killed, but he was a prince of Serbia. Let's not forget it. Let's be very clear that it's lamentable if he has been killed. It's condemnable. But to make that a basis for the sanctions, for cutting off commercial ties, and reducing the level of diplomatic relationship is idiotic and, as I said earlier, suicidal. I do agree US has to decide that a terrible crime might have been committed. Yes. But is there a limit to the crime? How many people have been killed? Is the death of one individual much more than the death of the millions? Or is the death of this individual a tragedy because he was the reporter on the Post? Why is it that howsoever bad it may be, the death is bad, murder is vile, but is it a desirable excuse for destroying the economy of the whole country, or for encouraging terrorism, which might bring in more bloodshed and more deaths? Think about it and let this propaganda war come to an end. Sooner it does, the better it would be. Thank you.